Hiya, welcome to the shed. This video I'm not going to be turning anything for this video. I'm just going to show you what I've been doing, a conundrum that I've walked into. I haven't really done any major wet turning before. I've turned one wet bowl. It's up in that, don't know if you can see it. There's a blue plastic box up there with chippings in it. I'll show you that one. In fact, I'll show you that one now. This one was from Mike Walt. I went down to Mark Walt in Bedford to see him to learn how to turn a little bit better, and he gave me a couple of half logs to have a work on. It's like the first wet turning. I've only turned one of them. It's a live edge. I've left a stub in the middle. Now this has been sat in that plastic box with wood chippings over the top of it for months. I think about 3 months, probably like that, about 3 or 4 months. Only the very tip of the live edges are dry, all the rest is still wet. I think the reason why is it's been sat like that in the plastic box. So as you can imagine, because it's a plastic box, the moisture isn't getting out, it's only getting out from the top. There's quite a bit of timber still, timber and sawdust that's damp in the top. The moisture's not getting away, so I'm going to have to put this in a cardboard box. But it's come out pretty nice, and there's no splits in it as yet. There's a slight split there where there's a knot, very slight knot. I think that split was there, to be honest, when I actually turned it. Or it's like a hairline split and it's just got a little bit wider, but it hasn't gone all the way through, which is a good thing. I've still got the tenon. I'll put myself a little knobble on the end of it, and there's a knobble in the middle of that as well, so I can stick it between centres and true up the tenon before returning it. The other half, I've still got that. I just haven't got round to turning that one yet. I actually forgot I had it. It was at the back of the cupboard, and I saw it the other day, so I'm going to get round to turning that one soon. But that's the first one. And I'll get the camera ready to show you the next, because another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that I've turned, and they're huge compared to what I've turned before. One of them was too wide when it was rough, before I started turning, to actually stick on the lathe. And the maximum diameter I can get on this is 40 centimetres. But if you're turning, it's going to be less than that. It's going to be about, say, 39, something like that. Otherwise the wood's going to be rubbing against the actual bed of the lathe. So I had to swivel it round and stick it to the side. Ha! Ha! I'm looking forward to this with a little bit of trepidation. It's a monkey puzzle, which was fun with the face plate. Just to trim it down, just to round it off a little bit, and then I spun it back round again and put the tail stock on it. This is the first one I turned. The walls are still quite thick on that, to be honest. I might take them down a little bit more, or I might not, I'm not sure. On most of these, there's a pencil line that I put all the way around the outside before I started hollowing too far down, to show me where the maximum it was, maximum depth I wanted it to be, before I got too thin at the bottom. And the whole idea of that was, I should do a review on the hollowing jig and the camera system that I've got. But it was on here, and the camera's above the top. Obviously through the screen, I put a little mark on the screen to show where the tip of the hollowing tool was. And you can obviously see that pencil line, so I knew that mark, I didn't want that mark to go past that pencil line. So on most of these bowls I've got that. On one of them I haven't, because I forgot to do that, to be honest, and I was very lucky I didn't go too shallow, and I think it was this one. But there's that one that's the live edge. That's spalted birch, I think. Beech. Is that a spalted beech or spalted birch? As you can see, it's very rough here on the end grain because it's too wet really to get that smooth. My skills anyway. And then that edge, obviously when I finish it, is going to be a lot smoother and a better transition. And this, I might sand that down. When that goes wider, that's going to go thinner. This is another one. The tenon still on the bottom, and I put a little mark with a parting tool. I just went to not parting tool, sorry, spindle gouge. I just chipped out a little bit in the middle to show me where the middle is. I didn't want to put a pencil mark there because these are wet, and I don't know if the pencil's just going to wear off with the chippings and everything, or wash off. So I decided to get the spindle gouge instead and just put a little dip, and then same on that side as well. When I ordered these, some of them were silver birch and some were spalted beech or spalted birch. I can't remember now. I should really write these things down, shouldn't I? This is the next one, and that's very deep. I really like this one. Drop it on the floor. Well done, Mark. That's the one that I didn't put the line on, and that goes down very low. So when I finish turning that, I've just got to remember. I did that same again. There's a little dip in the middle for the headstock, and then the tailstock, a little knobble there. But I'm very happy with these. This is the same. There's the line, and I made that a little bit too thin, to be honest, so same again. I'm going to have to be very careful when I go down towards the bottom that I don't blast out the middle, otherwise I'll have to make a bung for it. Same process with the hope hollowing jig. This weighs a ton. It's got a lot more moisture in it, in this one, than the rest of them, and this is Monkey Puzzle. You can see the 4 knots there. Monkey Puzzle, and I'm really looking forward to finish turning that. But as you can see, this green mould wasn't on there when I roughed it. And then this scared the hell out of me a couple of times. When it jammed, it looked like it was coming off the chuck. And that, because it was so, that was crotchwood. I'll see if I can find a picture of it and get it on the video towards the end. But there was the main trunk, and the main trunk went off that way, and there's another trunk coming off this way that was smaller. So that was permanently unstable, and with it being wet as well, wetter in certain areas than others, it was the maximum I could get that to spin was about 250 to 300 RPM before it was just too shaky. And that is obviously flat at the top. It's not going to be finished that way. What I'm going to do is, I'm not going to do it yet. I'm going to do it when I'm finishing. This here, I'm going to chip all this lot out with a Dremel. Basically make it the same transition, so it's not a sharp edge there. Make it the same transition all the way down. That is a razor sharp edge, and that is still wormwood. So when it dries properly, I'm going to chip all that wormwood off, and then this edge is going to be curved. I'm going to have a curved edge there to take rid of those get rid of these corners, and the same there as well. A slight transition to make that into a point. But I'm really liking that. and that is about, even though it dips down, that is still about, I'll get a ruler, still about 100 ml deep. It's going to be slightly less than that when I take this wormwood away, but that's about, still about 100 ml deep, and you can get a fair bit of fruit in that, or something. And then that's it for the rough turning. I decided to do something a little bit smaller. Well, first off, this mould, the conundrum that I mentioned, is that I've seen various videos on how to dry wood once you've wet turned it. The option that I went with, which is similar to that plastic box up there, is the original, the wood shavings that came out of the bowls. I put them in cardboard boxes with the wet shavings. This is one that I put in, and that's only after about 4 days that started to come up. And then that one was only after about 2 days, 1 day or 2 days. And I took that one out to have a look, saw the mould, and I thought, oh, I'm taking that one out as well. That, I think, is small enough to fit in a microwave. Now, I'm not as happy with this one as I am with the rest, or the rest of them. So what I'm thinking about doing, maybe, when I've got time, is to stick it back on the lathe, make these walls thinner, not majorly thinner, just a little bit more, and then microwave it on medium power for approximately 2 minutes, take it out, well, wait first, microwave it for 2 minutes, take it out, let the steam and let it cool down, wait again, put it in the microwave, and keep on doing that at 2-minute intervals for a couple of days. Wait until the temperature drops down on a graph and starts to peter off. Let it cool down, and then get a moisture meter on it and see if it's around about 10% moisture. If it's around about 10 to 13% moisture, then I'll look towards making the walls thinner, chewing it up, making the walls thinner, and then stick it in the microwave again and see if I can get it down to about 8%, 8 to 10, somewhere around there, before I actually finish turning it and getting the Dremel and the cleaner, cleaning off all the edge and everything, and then finishing that. But the rest of them, I'm going to try a different technique. I've seen a few on the internet. I'm thinking about doing the methylated spirits option. Now, the videos that you'll see on YouTube, they'll be talking about denatured alcohol. Obviously, you can't get denatured alcohol in the UK. You can, but it's branded as methylated spirits instead. Now, the stuff that you'll see in places like Wix, Do It All, not Do It All, B&Q, places like that, will be purple because they've got a dye in them to make people feel sick if they drink them. It's like homeless people and various extreme alcoholics used to buy methylated spirits to drink because it's like 90% alcohol. Obviously, it's very bad for them, so what the UK government decided to do was pass a law to put dye in them instead. Dye in them to turn them purple, so if anyone did drink it, it'd make them sick. But you can get clear methylated spirits. It is quite expensive. I've actually seen it on eBay, 5 litres for £100. No, that's not going to be my money. That's going to them. There's a site. I'll put a link to the bottom of the video. There's a site in the UK. They're based up in Scotland, and you can get 5 times. No, I'm telling you wrong. I'll put it down at the bottom. But basically, it was £100 from this site in Scotland. It's about £50 for exactly the same amount as what eBay was selling it for 100, and it's 5 times 5 litre tubs. So you'll have 5 times 5 litre tubs. So it's like 25 litres of methylated spirits for, I think, £48, and then you'll have the shipping on top of that. But you can't fault that, really. And it's not the case of using it the once and then chuck it away. You can use it and then pour it back into a bottle and keep on reusing it for this. And obviously, once you've done, say, about 5 or 6 bowls, you might want to renew it and put some fresh in with the old. But the option that I'm going to go with, because of the mould, I can't stick it in chippings because they're just going to go furry. It's going to look like Chewbacca, like a white and green Chewbacca. I'm going to get a plastic, a thick, not talking about like a Tesco's bag or a supermarket bag or anything like that. That's very weak. You've got to get a thick gauge plastic like a rubble sack. Get a load of chipping. I'm going to get a load of chippings in the shape of the outside of the bowl. Make a dip in the shavings for the outside to the same shape, to conform to the same shape as the outside of the bowl. Waggle it around a little bit to put a little bit of space in it. Put the plastic bag in there. Fill the rubble sack with methylated spirits, and then put the bowl in there. Seal the top up, and then leave it for a couple of days. And that methylated spirits, because it's so thin, will soak into the wood. And what that will do is, hopefully, what it should do, it should kill the mould, and the methylated spirits in the wood, when it dries, should keep the mould at bay. Another thing that it's going to do is it's going to draw out the moisture on the inside, and then when it's through the drying process, it should actually speed up the drying process, because the methylated spirits, as you know, evaporates a lot quicker than what moisture does, than what water does, and what sap does. So it'll dry the moisture out as it's soaking in, and it'll evaporate a lot quicker. And reports have been saying that it dries quicker, you get slightly less warping. You still get warping, but you get slightly less, and there's less tendency for it to split as well. And another option to stop it, to aid it, to stop it from splitting, is once it's been soaked in the methylated spirits, I'm going to take it out, let it dry maybe for a couple of hours, and then get some thick shrink wrap or thick plastic, another thick plastic product, probably shrink wrap what you see around pallets, and wrap the shrink wrap as tight as I can possibly get it around the outside of the bowl and round over the lip, but leave the inside of the bowl open. So there's no protection whatsoever. There's no oil, no waxes, no plastic or paper or anything like that. Just leave it open to the elements. And the whole idea of that is the inside of the bowl will dry quicker than the outside, because obviously the outside is covered in plastic. That will lead to the outside shrinking towards the inside, but because it's a circle, it can't shrink. There's too much pressure there, so it's going to reduce the chance of the actual rim opening. The rim's going to want to close in on itself, so it's going to stop that rim opening or aid it, because plastic will expand, but not as but there's still going to be a resistance there, a lot more resistance than nothing on the inside. You know what I mean? So hopefully that's going to work, and hopefully instead of waiting about 8 months to 9 months, and then taking this big fur ball out of the chippings, hopefully I should be able to wet turn them in probably finish turn them, should I say, in probably about 4 months, 4 or 5 months, something like that. So that's the option that I'm going to do, but I haven't got the methylated spirits yet. I'm going to order that later on. While I'm waiting for that to be delivered, I work for a haulage company, so surely I could borrow a big roll of cellophane, like shrink wrap. Just grab myself some big thick rubble sacks as well, because you definitely don't want to use thin gauge if you use this option. You need some thick gauge plastic, because you don't want to accidentally pick that up and it splits. You've got methylated spirits everywhere. Not only is that dangerous, it's going to be a nightmare. Not only is that dangerous, it's going to be a nightmare to clean up. This is something that I'm working on at the moment. It's going to be longer than what it is. I made a chalice before, like a African blackwood and Padouk chalice, and it was African blackwood top. It's got a Padouk, red Padouk centre to the stem, and it's got African blackwood at the bottom as well, so that's going to be the plan for this. And I'm quite liking the way that the hollowing's going at the moment. I've still got to clean it up a little bit. I'll stick this light on. I'm quite liking how the hollowing's going, and for that I used a combination of, obviously, the forcing a bit, a round nose scraper, a bit of a dirty round nose scraper, one of these, but it's got little corners on the end that I had to be careful of. I might grind those off when I try to clean it up a little bit more. And I hope carbide tip tool. It's not very long, but it's not very deep, to be honest. And the carbide tip is set at 45 degrees. That's one thing, and that's, I'm going to make it as a 2 set. I've got another piece of walnut here that's the same length. I'm going to have a 2 chalice or goblet set when it's eventually finished. But that's what I'm working on at the moment. This is another thing that I'm working on. Very rough, it needs a lot of sanding and a lot of work done to it. But that's mahogany. Quite like this. It's nearly finished. It's still got the mortise on the bottom. I'm going to put that on the chuck to do the finish on it properly. But that is Pippy Oak, Iroko, and an Iroko bottom. The black is Milliput, and then this is brown ivory. And the whole idea of this, I made this, I didn't know what I wanted to actually make out of it. That's got a red, it's red on the inside. It's got a red polish on the inside of it. I didn't really know what that was going to be, so it's going to be like a pot puree holder, and then that has got a hole all the way through it to let the essences through. But I like how that milliput's come out. That milliput's come out really well. That, it looks like a haze, because it probably is. Because I've waxed it, and I've still got to buff this off yet, the wax on this, and put more wax on it. And then this, what I had an absolute nightmare with. I'll just move this across. Drop it in the sawdust, which is better than concrete, I suppose. This is severely Pippy Oak. Severely as in down at the bottom, you see the milliput down in the bottom, those cracks, those pips and checks go all the way through to the bottom, but thankfully with it being oak they're not actually splits, they're just checks, so there was no risk of it exploding on me really. And this was bark. There's actual bark that was trapped inside the oak as the oak was growing. There's bark on the inside of it, so that's why there's so much milliput around there. But I do like the effect of what the milliput's done, but there are very small checks, and when you try to get rid of the really small checks, more really small checks open up. So I couldn't really go, I didn't really want to go any thinner, and there's a few real small sections where the milliput just does not want to stay in, so that would have to be some kind of black resin. So I decided not to do the black resin, because the black resin will not come up the same as the milliput, so I'd rather just leave them open, clean them up a little bit, and then do like a wax and abrasive, like an abrasive paste, wax and fine dust pour fill on those. I do like the way that's come out. I'm going to put a few more layers of wax on that, and then stick it on the bowl reversing jaws that I've got, and then turn the bottom and sand the bottom down and finish the bottom, and stick some milliput in the bottom as well. There's some very deep checks in there. And as you can see, I've still got some milliput there that I need to clean off. Some milliput just there, just a raise on the foot, and that's going to be the outside foot, and then that's going to be the dip in. So that's what I'm working on at the moment, but I've got to wait because I've got to obviously sort these out first before they start to dry too much. So with these, what I'm going to do is I'm going to box them up in the chippings until I can get the methylated spirits, and then I'm going to be doing them one at a time, because as you can see, there's that much wood surface area. I'm going to need a lot more methylated spirits to do them all at the same time. So I'm going to have to do them one at a time. This will be the first one that I do, because this monkey puzzle cost me about £40, £40 to £45 for this monkey puzzle. So that's one that I really want to do first. I don't want this one splitting at all. And then once that's been in for a couple of days and it's drying out, then I can start on the next one in the bag, and the next one in the bag. But I don't want to leave them out in the open for too long either, so that's why they're going in the chippings. These are those chippings. This, believe it or not, is just off. It's only off what I've turned here. Believe it or not, that is full. It's got a few little bits here. No more can get in that. Let's open this up. That's a good review for a Titan vacuum cleaner. And it actually keeps on going until it gets up into the pipe and you can't get any more in. That's how good it is. That is full. But I think there's some stuff in the bottom of that from a previous turn-in. And I've got a big, quite a big wheelie bin up at the front at the top of the garden. It's also got chippings about half full from previous turn-ins, and some of this as well. So so I've got a lot of recycling to do. Yeah. The video cut out. Whatever result I get from this, whether it's a good result or a bad result, or if it's better than expected or whatever, I'm still going to do a video anyway and post it in a few months, sometime next year, because we're in starting of November now. So it's going to be at least February, April time, somewhere around there, when I'm going to be looking at them again. When I put the methylated spirits in, like I say, I'm going to get the drink. Well, anyway, I've gone through that, so I'm going on, aren't I? So yeah, happy turning, and in about 4 or 5 months, I'll be sticking another video up as like an aftermath. Hopefully it's good. But happy turning. Have a good weekend.